Okay, let's go ahead and go through Chapter 11 assignments briefly. Now, the first assignment we're going to look at is brief exercise 11.1 and 11.2. Even though both of these aren't assigned, it made less sense to do brief exercise 11.2 unless we did the first one, 11.1 first. So that's why I'm going ahead and doing that. So let's look at brief exercise 11.1 first. Taylor Swift Corporation purchases a patent from Salmon Company on January 1, 2025 for $54,000. And so this first part, let me just kind of focus in here. And so this first part is going to be dealing with the purchase of the patent. So the patent is an asset, so because we're buying it already developed. So we put it on the books as an asset, and they paid cash for it. They estimate a useful life of 10 years based off of new innovations before the patent becomes obsolete. Then they want us to record the amortization for 2025. So for the year, it's 1/10 because they bought it on January 1st. So we're going to amortize the patent, meaning we're going to reduce the patent's value by $5,400. So you can use either, in the real world, you can decrease the value of the patent directly by doing a credit to the asset, or you can use accumulated amortization. Either way is fine. And this situation, they just decreased it directly. So 1/10 of the year, so that means that asset was amortized by 1/10. All right, so then let's look at brief exercise 11-2. Okay, let's look at the different elements of this. So the first thing they want us to do is they want us to book the defense of the patent. The company, Taylor Swift Company, spent $24,000 defending the patent, and it was successful. Successful is important. If it's not successful, then it doesn't help you. But if it is successful, then the patent's useful life continues to be valid. So since it's successful, we added to the value of the patent, and we spent the cash to the lawyers. The same thing goes if you, for example, updated some equipment and extended the equipment's useful life. You would increase the value of the equipment, meaning the asset. Well, that's what the same thing you're doing here. You're increasing the value of the patent through legal measures. Now the second part says is we want to look at the amortization, right? So how much amortization? It says, well, what is our patent worth? Our patent, it says at the time, is worth $43,200, plus we added $24,000 to successfully defend it, and then we're going to amortize it until 2034, which is 8 more years. So that means $8,400. Again, only brief exercise 11.2 is required, but it kind of makes sense. It's hard to make sense of it if you don't do 11.1, so I went ahead and did that one too. So in 11.5, brief exercise 11.5, it's a goodwill calculation. And so what goodwill is the difference of how much a company pays to buy another company over the amount of that company's fair value of their assets. So what are the net assets worth fair value wise, and then how much do they pay for it? So it says that the book value of the assets would be $620 minus $200,000, so that would be $420. Okay, so that's the book value, the net book value. But the assets are actually worth $800,000. So the assets are worth fair value wise $800,000. Now we did have $200,000 in liabilities, so the overall net value of the company, based on their assets alone, would be a net asset value of $600,000. But we paid $700,000. That means we paid more for the company than the value of the assets, and the reason is because we thought it had other value that was deeper than that. So maybe the company had really good customer retention, maybe the company's well managed, maybe it's got a great brand recognition, everybody knows about it. These are reasons a company would buy another company and pay more for it than the fair value of the assets. So how we calculate the goodwill is just take how much we paid compared to the fair value netted by the liabilities. Okay, so our last problem 11.2, is the one with the most moving parts. It seems a little bit more confusing, but it's just confusing because there's a lot going on. But the bottom line is this: research and development is expensed. The only cost of a patent would be the legal cost or the engineer cost to get the patent application granted, because once the patent application is granted, then you have the patent, and the patent's got a useful life. So all the R&D costs are expensed, but any cost, like right here, cost to prepare the patent, those are going to be capitalized because they're actually part of an actual patent that has a useful a future life. Any other research and development is expensed. Any future cost for the legal department to defend the patent is going to be capitalized if successful. So that's really all that we need to know. So the first activities in 2016, 17, 18, these are all research and development costs. So we ignore those. The testing in 2018, research and development. Only the fees for the engineers and lawyers to actually create the patent application. So those are created on 2019. And then since we want to know the cost, it's got they estimate 17 years, and that's right here. They assume a 17-year life. That's $3,500 a year that we're going to amortize. So 2019 is 1 year. So from January to the end of the year, that's $3,500. And so the carrying amount for December 31st, 2019 would be $5,600. All costs before that are R&D costs, so they would have been expensed and not capitalized. So then we get to 2023. How are we going to calculate that? Well, picking up with the $56,000 in 2020, that's what it's worth at the beginning of 2020, and then we have 17 years, so that's $3,500 each year, which we already saw. So that's 2020, 2021. So we get to the end of 2021, and the patent would be worth $49,000. Only they spent $42,000. I'll show you where that is. They spent $42,000 in 2021 to defend the patent, and it was successful. So that gets capitalized. So now the value of the patent is $91,000. What about at the end of 2023? Well, at that point, they just have 14 years left because they had 3 years from the 17-year life. So there's 14 years left from the original 17, and so just take the $91,000 divided by 14, and that's 2 years that you're going to amortize from the end of 2021. So all of 2022, 2023, and that leaves me with a carrying value at the end of 2023 of $78,000. So that's how I get $78,000. All right, so then what about the end of 2026? Well, starting back beginning of 2024, $78,000. They've revised the number of years to 5 years. So they said, you know what, it's not going to last as long as we thought. Obsolescence kicks in. It's only going to have 5 years remaining life. So we're going to take the $78,000 and divide it by 5 and amortize it all of 2024, 2025, 2026. And so that leaves us a carrying value of $31,200. Now you might ask, well, what about this legal defense? Legal fees paid to in 2026 to defend the patent, but it was unsuccessful. So whenever it's unsuccessful, you expense it, you don't capitalize it. So that leaves us with a carrying value of $31,200. And so there you go. That's how we would work our assignments this week. And hope that's helpful.